291 B-17 flying fortresses, each one armed with 13 50-caliber machine guns, flying in formation so perfectly engineered that a single wing could put 700 heavy machine guns in the air simultaneously. The Luftwaffe had a name for it: das fliegende Stachelschwein, the flying porcupine. They weren't wrong. Closing from the rear meant 30 seconds of converging fire before a German pilot could even reach his own firing range. Entire squadrons were being shredded before they could pull the trigger. The Americans had built something that looked genuinely unstoppable. So when 60 B-17s didn't come home from a single mission in October 1943, when the most heavily armed bomber in history started falling out of the sky in pieces, nobody could explain how. Until one pilot walked a crash site in a French field and found something the Americans had somehow missed entirely. The doctrine was called the self-defending bomber, the belief that heavy bombers flying in tight formation could fight their way to any target in occupied Europe and back without fighter escort. In 1942, over Western France and the Low Countries, it almost looked true. Colonel Curtis LeMay's 305th Bombardment Group designed the combat box, first flown operationally on the 6th of December 1942 over Lille. The formation stacked 18 to 21 B-17s vertically, a high squadron, a lead squadron, a low squadron, every aircraft's guns overlapping its neighbors' fields of fire. A 54-plane wing box could field upward of 700 heavy machine guns. Luftwaffe pilots had a name for it. They called it the fliegende Stachelschwein, the flying porcupine. For a German fighter pilot closing from astern, the porcupine earned its name. Major Anton Haeckel, 192 victories by war's end, described the geometry. If one came in from the rear, there was a long period, closing from 1,000 meters to our firing range of 400 meters, when the bombers were firing at us, but we could not effectively reply. Karl Boris of Jagdgeschwader 26 recalled tracers swarming like wasps around the cockpit before his guns were even in range. One of his squadron mates put it plainer: attacking a combat box from behind was like trying to make love to a porcupine that is on fire. But one pilot, studying the wreckage of downed B-17s in a French field, noticed something the Americans had overlooked in their own design. The nose was nearly empty. Hauptmann Egon Meyer, Gruppenkommandeur of the 3rd Gruppe of Jagdgeschwader 2, Richthofen, walked the crash sites of B-17Fs across Brittany in the autumn of 1942. He was not looking at what had killed the bombers. He was looking at what had failed to protect them. The nose glazing, that distinctive plexiglass greenhouse where the bombardier and navigator sat, held a single 30-caliber machine gun, rifle caliber, handheld, nearly useless against a fighter closing at speed. The cockpit was unarmored. The bombardier's station was unarmored. The entire front of the airplane was a gap in the porcupine's quills. Meyer worked out the math with his wingman, Lieutenant Georg Peter Schorsch Eder of the 12th Staffel of Jagdgeschwader 2. A B-17 cruising at 180 miles per hour and a Focke-Wulf 190 closing head-on at 330 produced a combined speed near 600 miles per hour. From useful firing range, roughly 800 meters, to break-off, the German pilot had 2 to 3 seconds. Steel nerves and dead-steady aim, or nothing at all. But the geometry was reversed. No deflection shooting required. The bomber filled the windscreen, and Luftwaffe armament officers had already calculated that roughly 20 hits from 20mm cannon were needed to bring down a B-17 from the rear. From the front, 4 to 5. The first coordinated test came on the 23rd of November, 1942, over Saint-Nazaire. 50 B-17s and 8 B-24s dispatched against the U-boat pens. Only 28 bombers reached the target.
Mayer led three-ship Ketten, shallow V formations, line abreast, straight down the bombers' throats, opening fire with no deflection bursts and breaking sharply up and away. He claimed 2 B-17s and a B-24 that day, his 53rd through 55th victories. The 8th Air Force mission report noted afterward, "A change of enemy fighter tactics was observed in this operation, nearly all attacks being frontal and apparently aimed at the right side of the nose." From the rear, a German pilot endured 30 seconds of converging fire before he could shoot back. From the front, the engagement was over in 3 seconds, and the bomber's weakest point was directly in his gun sight. Mayer's tactic would earn him 25 to 27 four-engined bomber kills and make him the first Channel Front pilot to reach 100 victories. What it could not do was save him from the weapon that actually ended the air war over Germany. That reckoning was 18 months away. The trick did not stay in Brittany. Adolf Galland, General der Jagdflieger, issued tactical regulations formalizing the head-on attack across every Jagdgeschwader on the Western Front. Object Lesson 1 was blunt. The attack from the rear against a four-engined bomber formation promises little success and almost always brings losses. Object Lesson 4 was the new gospel. The attack from the front high or front low, all with low speed, is the most effective of all. This was no longer one pilot's innovation. It was printed doctrine, distributed, trained, drilled into every fighter unit between the Channel and the Reich. Galland himself had inspected a captured B-17 at Rechlin in October of 1942 and reportedly assessed it as a machine combining heavy armor, enormous altitude, colossal defensive armament, and great speed. He respected the airplane. He also told every fighter pilot in Germany to attack it from the one angle it could not defend. On the 17th of August, 1943, 376 B-17s flew to Schweinfurt and Regensburg. German fighters, now universally trained in the frontal pass, intercepted in waves. The 5th Staffel of Jagdgeschwader 11 introduced the Werfergranate 21 rocket mortar, lobbing 210mm rockets into the formations from standoff range to shatter the boxes before the head-on passes began. 60 B-17s were destroyed. Lieutenant Colonel Bern Lay, flying as co-pilot with the 100th Bomb Group in the Regensburg Force, watched a dark shape hurtling through his formation. A man, clasping his knees to his head, revolving like a diver in a triple somersault. Lay did not see the parachute open. Gunners across the strike force claimed 288 German fighters destroyed. Actual Luftwaffe losses, 25 to 27. 8 weeks later, Black Thursday, the 14th of October 1943, 291 B-17s went back to Schweinfurt. No escort beyond Aachen. Elements of Jagdgeschwader 1, 3, 11, and 26 intercepted in relays, some units refueling and rearming to hit the bombers a second time on egress. 60 B-17s destroyed. 17 more scrapped beyond repair. 650 aircrew casualties. The 305th Bomb Group, LeMay's old outfit, the unit that had designed the combat box, lost 13 of its 16 aircraft in minutes.
Captain John Luckadoo of the 100th Bomb Group watched a Focke-Wulf 190 barrel into his squadron head-on at the initial point. They kept coming. He flew impacted the ship that I was formed on. Gunners claimed 186 German fighters. Actual losses, 35 to 38. The overclaiming ratio, 5 to 1, sometimes 10 to 1, was the final verdict on the self-defending bomber. The men behind the guns believed they were fighting back. The numbers said otherwise. The combat box could field 700 guns to the rear, Against a head-on pass, a B-17F offered one handheld 30 caliber machine gun in the nose and nothing else until the fighter had already fired and broken away. The formation, designed to be a fortress, had a front door that was wide open. The Americans answered with the B-17G, production from July of 1943, adding a Bendix chin turret with twin 50 caliber guns aimed forward. 13 heavy machine guns total, roughly 7,500 rounds, the most heavily armed bomber of the war. It helped. It did not change the math. The Luftwaffe escalated. The Mk-108 30mm cannon, 3 hits typically sufficient to destroy a heavy bomber. The Werfer-Granate 21 rocket. And finally, the Focke-Wulf 190 A8R2 Sturmbock, armored to absorb 50 caliber fire, armed with twin 30mm cannon, pressed to point-blank range by pilots who had sworn an oath to ram if their guns failed. On the 7th of July 1944, the 4th Sturmgruppe of Jagdgeschwader 3 under Hauptmann Wilhelm Moritz drove into the 492nd Bomb Group and annihilated an entire squadron of 12 B-24s in approximately 1 minute. A US AAF gun camera analysis found the average gunner's hit rate was roughly 2%. Multiple gunners routinely claimed the same fighter. The men in the turrets believed they were effective. The statistical record said they were not. Ball turret gunners, often the smallest crew member, curled in the fetal position for hours, parachute stowed above them inside the fuselage, flew at -42 degrees in electrically heated suits. Frostbite was the leading cause of medical removal in 1943. Frank Coleman, 95th Bomb Group Ball turret gunner, went to a nearby farm to pray after every mission he survived. Egon Meyer reached his 100th victory on the 5th of February 1944, the first Channel Front pilot to do so. Less than a month later, on the 2nd of March, his Focke-Wulf 190 A6 was caught near Montmedy. 29 P-47 Thunderbolts, the man who had found the B-17's blind spot, was killed, not by a bomber's guns, but by the escorts the Americans had finally unleashed. Final score, 102 victories, 25 to 27 of them 4-engined bombers. On the 6th of January 1944, Jimmy Doolittle took command of the 8th Air Force and changed the policy that had kept escort fighters tethered to the bomber formations. He turned them loose to hunt. The long-range P-51 Mustang, capable of reaching Berlin and back, did what 700 machine guns could not. It broke the Jagdwaffe. Galland later credited that single decision as the day Germany lost the air war. Every American strategic bomber built after the B-17 abandoned heavy defensive turrets. The B-47 carried only a tail turret. The B-52 carried only a tail gun, deleted entirely in the 1990s. The lesson held for 40 years. You do not outgun a fighter. You outrun it, outclimb it, or you send your own fighters to kill it first. The combat box fielded 700 guns. The Luftwaffe walked around to the front door, and the answer, when it came, had nothing to do with guns at all.
As of early 2026, 4 B-17s remain in flying condition worldwide. The turrets are empty. The guns are museum pieces. What endures is not the firepower. It is the math. 3 out of 4 crews in late 1943 did not come home. A 5-line poem by Randall Jarrell said everything the 13 guns could not.